So hello again guys. This part of our continuous Phyrexia will be one card spoilers discussion. We'll focus today on the Planeswalker that was so far revealed on the current spoiler season of this upcoming Magic the Gathering set. And so in the previous video we have seen the new version of Kaito that was from Kamigawa Dynasty that has become another of the relevant part of this storyline. And in this set, we'll have probably four previously revealed on the previous days of these new Planeswalkers that has been completed with this also a new mechanic or some type of a mechanic for Phyrexia that is theme aligned. And we're going to start with this one. This is Luca Bound to Ruin. This is also a completed Planeswalker. Luca from the Icoria Behemoths has become already a Phyrexia or have been completed, going from just the basic part of the Planeswalker. So we have discussed the ability that has this ability could be going with the ping, red, green, or 2 life. So if the life was paid, this Planeswalker enters the battlefield with 2 fewer loyalty counters. So if you imagine, the original casting cost will be 5. That is 2 generic or any color, 1 red, green or completed, and 1 green mana that is going with 5. But if you're going to pay your 2 life, that would make him cost would only 4. It will go or enters the battlefield with 3 starting loyalty counters. So this is just a text on what the Luca new abilities would look like. It has spell ability of loyalty to +1, add red and green mana, spend this mana cost to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures, or use -1 to create a 3/3 green Phyrexia beast creature token with Toxic 1. If you remember, Toxic 1 is the newest version of the Infect deck, in which it would, if it would deal combat damage, it would also place a poison counter. Since this is Toxic 1, so it would have 1 poison counter added to the defending player or the player that was damaged, and which is also a very solid token producer in the setup. For only 4, you can basically go with having a 3/3 blocker to protect him, and also his loyalty ultimate would be just 4. So if you imagine, you would go casting it for 5, you can just basically use its -4 ability already. So its ability for the -4 loyalty would be dealing X damage divided choose any number of target creatures and Planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled as you activated its ability. Now this would be really a situational, but it would fit well if you're going with some of the natural colors of red and green, wherein you can just cast out your biggest threat or biggest creature and then activate Luca's ability to do this X damage equal to that greatest power. So for its current uses, having a completed would not really matter for a red-green aggro deck. As you can see, in the current format, we don't really have in standard the likes of turn 1 Lower Elves or turn 1 Elvis Mystic into turn 3 threat and into Luca Bound to Ruin. But if we go with the 2 drops, there are several options that you can have to ramp up your mana and at the same time have a Luca Bound to Ruin early on in play and do some mana ramp also with this one, since those extra RG can also be used to cast creature spells for 2 mana cost at the least, and also use this one to activate any relevant abilities. Now, for any board presence that you would need to produce, you can just go with activating -1 to create this variance of a 3/3 green beast as your additional board presence and threat. At the same time, go with just activating your +1. For example, you'll have to -1 for a 3/3, and then on your next turn you will also +1 to ramp up your mana to be able to cast, for example, a bigger threat. For example, in standard we have a Tyrant of the Courage from Virus War. So you would need those extra mana to produce, and so Luca would also be able to provide that. As for any other formats, I think this would really fit well in the Pioneer RG vehicles. This not text what really not I could consider that as a 1.5 or top 1 tire in the meta game, but it's one of the well-known archetypes that is used in the format, and having Luca also would really expand its options to go with having more threats, use more creature spells instead of having those vehicles as their main function to deal an early threat, but also have Luca to those ability to reinforce and make some specific adjustments on how their main strategy would adjust and what this build would look like. And we're now proceeding to the next one. We have Nahiri the Unforgiving. So as we all know, Nahiri from Zendikar, it is she is still with red and white mana costs, but it's completed now to become at only 3 mana. If you would be able to activate this one, when you're just going to play one generic, one red, pay 2 life, and one white mana to have her place in the battlefield as early as turn 3. And her ability, use +1 to until the end of your next turn up to 1 target creature attacks a player each combat if able. So it means that each player, Nahiri would not really be attacked on this one. And then you will also have this activated ability, +1 discard a card, draw a card. So another card draw effect to fix your hand or dig up to your better threats against certain situations. And then you have 0 activation to exile target creature or equipping card with mana value less than that of Nahiri's royalty from your graveyard. And then you will create a token that's a copy of it. So that token would gain haste and exile at the beginning of your next end step. So in this version, the 0 ability, I really think would really affect, but that's one way to recycle your creatures. For example, these have been dealt with or died in combat damage early on. Don't just use Nahiri's 0 ability to create a token of it. To make sure though that those kinds of creatures that has fallen, for example, should have these ETB effects, so they would be able to be more efficient. Examples of such are ETB effects, like example Kabu, Flame Tank Kabu, when it's enters the battlefield to deal 4 damage to any target creature. So having Nahiri's ability to excel it, its mana value, that is mana value 4, for example, and you have starting 5, you can just create a copy of those cards and then use that one to generate a token and to also benefit from its ETB abilities. So in terms of usability, I think I would like this one because of the discard ability. It would fit well in some of the graveyard shenanigans deck. Currently in standard, I'm not really going to be just familiar with what good ways to discard, aside also from those with the ability that can be cast from a graveyard. In most of the mid-range decks or semi-controlish kind of deck in the format, Nahiri can be very good in manipulating their attack, for example, and also get you to dig to your best cards by discarding those extra lands or any unnecessary spells from your hand. For Pioneer, not really good in having a lot of decks, but I'm pretty sure with her ability of red and white, she can have a whole range of applications in terms of mid-range decks in the format, and also with control decks. For example, we have just Sky or maybe just red-white control. As in a previous review, I have made a Urion red-white control deck, so this Nahiri would also fit well to do her adjustments in having to fix other lands and also do some exiling on your ability in creating tokens after that. And so, the next card is our Eternal Wanderer. So, the Wandering Emperor is now become an Eternal Wanderer. So, that's his passive ability that for 6 mana, that's 4 in white, starting at level 5, no more than 1 creature can attack Eternal Wanderer its combat. So, very nice in controlling those creatures And the sad though is that she has made into a higher mana cost and has lessened the flashy effect to not to cast at any time and do the activations. So she would be more on a late game, a grindy kind of planeswalker. In a deck that also would fit would be that of the likes of blue white control or any white base control in any given format. So first ability is +1 loyalty. Exile up to one target or artifact or creature. Return that card to the battlefield until its owner control the meaning of the player's next end step. So what it thinks, Yorion or any creatures or artifact that has ETB effects that could benefit you or any situation you might have, it would be really useful in having Eternal Wanderer's +1 ability to gain you more an additional card advantage with those certain artifact or creature. And this ability also we have Zero to create a 2/2 white samurai token with double strike. It's more of an offensive type on this one because of dealing 4 damage instead of 2, and much more if that samurai token will get some counters or any giant growth effect to deal that double damage on that one. And last but not the least, for her loyalty is to get a -4, and then each player choose a creature the player controls. Then each player sacrifices a creature they do not they don't have chosen this way that they control. So I mean is that for each player, that player would choose a creature that he or she controls, then sacrifice those creatures that has not been chosen. This would be very situational, but would work well against some token effects or any token aggro decks. For example, this would also be good with the soldiers in the current format we're in. They would really wanted to swarm up the board with lots of effects and also some creatures that also can be resisting against mass removals because of creating of these 1/1 soldier tokens, artifact tokens whenever a token they control dies. So with this effect, they can just basically get rid of those extra tokens they produce and they would just go with a creature that they would think that would be really relevant in this matchup against the Eternal Wanderer. But at the same time, the benefit here is that her static ability that only one creature can attack her, which makes her very less resistance to any swarm kind of decks that could instantly kill her with the multiple attackers. But anyway, I would really go with this deck in standard in a blue-white or red-white or any Jeskai type of build for a late game. Maybe 1-ups or 2-ups that can basically produce this summon creature tokens to just swarm up the board and kill off your opponents once they run out of gas on the setup. And also, if your deck would go with the likes of exiling artifacts, especially those prototypes, casting them for only a cheap mana and then use Eternal Wanderer's +1 ability to blink them out and then return them back to your original mana cost. For example, for steel setup it would be 6, and it would become 5/4 flying artifact creature angel with the same ability of triggering during the beginning of your combat. So any prototype decks would also benefit on this. The same plan of blinking out your prototype creatures and any other creatures that has some ATB effects that would get you double the value as you play those cards. And our next Planeswalker discussion on these cards, spoilers, and probably the last of this batch, is the return of Vraska, but has been a completed version. Vraska's Betrayal's Team. So she is basically a 6 to cast, but has a completed option of 4 generic or any mana, 1 black, and 1 completed for 2 life or black. So if enters the battlefield again for completed, she would have the starting loyalty of only 4 instead of the 6. But given in this casting cost, I would think that she would go with any mid-range black decks. Example here would be the current mono black mid-range invoke in the standard. So having a late game plan that you can just use this one to draw a card, reduce one life, and also proliferate would be really benefit in those kinds of deck strategies. Also, she has this ability to -2 target creature becomes an artifact creature or treasure. So that means that any creature would become this puny artifact that could just be able to sacrifice to add your mana or fix up your mana, and then lose all other card types and abilities. So very cute, somewhat a cute spot removal in a way, but what really benefit is that you can be really dealing with bigger threat of your opponents by just making them into a mere treasure artifact and this ability. And last but not the least, for her -9, if a target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So that's very one way to just basically killing your opponents if you're not really going with a poison strategy in a deck. But if they're able to reach out, that we can have the ability to become up to 9 counters. Given that this one, you will draw a card, you will lose 1 life and proliferate. That means you will have 7 on this, and then 2 more proliferate activations. You will get to 9, and then on the next turn, you would be able to activate its ability to have poison counters added to your opponent. So it would be really, really tricky, but you can also have a build that some of your creatures would have those toxic ability, wherein any chances that you can have them get the poison counter, and then you will just use Vraska's 0 ability to proliferate those number of poison counters, or if needed, you can just get up to this one and then use the -9 ability to get those poison counters difference to fewer than 9 poison counters, to basically killing them out with the poison root. Unlike really, but I'm imagining now that in the new format of Phyrexia V1 in standard, we would have a toxic kind of deck strategy, not really pure with the infect kind of setup, but they would also have this option to win out against opponents just by proliferating those poison counters that they got from the early attacks of those toxic creatures. So I guess that's about it. Those are the 4 completed way of the Planeswalkers in new Phyrexia, or Phyrexia All will be one. We expect soon. There are also already previews in the video that they released from Thursday, or that was Friday early morning, on the other Planeswalker that has been completed in this storyline. So we will really expect what their ability would now look like now that you have them become a completed version of this storyline on this Phyrexia. So I guess that's about it now for this video. If you like more MTG content and previews now for new Phyrexia All will be one, just like and subscribe and turn on notifications bell for more quick updates, and as I post it on my channel, and more also related MTG content to your consumption. Thank you for watching this one, and until the next time.